Let's move on. Let's accelerate this thing because I know we've been going on for a long time. But Billy Napier, right? Billy Napier. Billy. Now, I think it was interesting for us, I think, to draft him as low as we did because I think people were a lot higher on him because he's a good recruiter and all this. He was hiring some good staff and yada, yada, yada. Uh, well, now he's in a spot where he's absolutely between a rock and a hard place right now. I mean, how is he going to get out of this? Like, they have to find ways to win games. If Florida is smart, I think even in a dud of a season, they will hold on to Billy Napier. But I don't think that the administration has the patience for that. If it is really, really, really bad because of the schedule, they could end up moving on from Billy Napier. And it's just hard to draft a guy, like in this coaches draft with 14 other coaches, like for the guy that probably has the least secure job of maybe one of two guys. There's probably like two guys on this list that have like the least secure jobs, right? Um, and one of them is Billy Napier. So it's like it's hard to draft him. It's hard to justify drafting him higher than we did, and I think we did a pretty good job valuing where he was at. But yeah, you drafted him. So how do you feel about him?
I mean, it was not. I mean, it's kind of just who's left on the board. Did I overdraft him in terms of Brent Pry? We'll get to in a second here. Yeah, I mean, I think we both really like what they're doing over there in Blacksburg, Virginia. So, but with Billy Napier, like you said, he's recruiting fantastically and he's doing all the right things off the field. It sounds like, but they just had way too many of the same mistakes you saw in year one occur in year two with the penalties, with the struggling offense or the struggling big time plays, whatever it was. Like it was just not it, in terms of I don't know why it didn't work out exactly, but I don't know if it gets much better. I mean, you lost a couple guys to the draft, you lost some guys to the portal. You're bringing a new coaching staff a little, like you kind of revamped everything in a last ditch effort. And then, oh yeah, you have a brutal schedule, which your over under is 5.5, but your under is minus 194. It's almost 1 to 2 odds where you have to bet $10 just to win five. Um, so yeah, it's pretty tough sledding, I think, for Florida and Billy Napier. But like we said, like I don't think this devalues him as an actual like coach. Like I do think he is a successful head coach at some point in his career. Is it at Florida with the way it happened here? Probably not. Because I don't think in just the way college football works nowadays with the portal and job securities and all the money that's being invested, like I just don't think he has the time to make it work. And if you have a hard time telling recruits that you have a safe job or whatever it is, like it's hard to get guys to come to your program to make things better in the first place. So it's kind of just like once you start trending downward, you just keep trending downward, which is why we talked about why the second year matters so much for these coaches. Right. And that's why we're doing this whole thing is because it matters. And you saw Florida take a step back from year one to year two, and year one wasn't even that great, anyways. That's why it's so much harder to continue to sell your program to recruits and coaches to turn the ship around.
Yeah, and when I look at like the offense, obviously it was better than I thought it was going to be. Graham Mertz outperformed my expectations, but losing Anthony Richardson, he had a top 25 offense right in the country. Okay. With Anthony Richardson, you were probably outside the top 50 in offensive production. And then defensively, like my gripe with them was like, how could you have all that in talent on the interior, right? And still be 100th in rushing yards allowed per game at 175 in 2022. Well, 2023, they didn't do much to improve that either. 165 yards per game allowed, 88th in the country, right? Giving up 5.5 or 5 yards per clip, just and defensively in the passing game, you're allowing like 14.1 yards per completion, 8.5 yards per attempt, like just abysmal numbers on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, just a tough spot, dude. He's just in such a tough spot. So I can't justify drafting him any higher. I think where you drafted him was probably right about where I would draft him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the day 3 of our draft. It was the late rounds. So I mean, it's just kind of what you got left. And Billy Napier was my pick. I would have taken Brett Pry over him for the record. So but it is what it is with Billy Napier. By the way, I'm rooting for him. I think Florida, what they can do and would be awesome if they pull their shit together and they surprise everybody would be fantastic. And obviously, I do think when Florida is better in college football is better for it. So obviously rooting for them to turn it around there in the swamp.